What up, cuckolds? It's your boy, The Hater. The Hater's got a busy weekend of doing nothing but playing Final Fantasy, so I'm recording a few videos in advance. I might record a video or two during the weekend as well, because, considering the fact that, you know what I mean? It is what it is, right? Things might happen that are interesting. But don't worry, you're going to get a video a day. So, this video is the last one I'm recording in this recording sesh, but I left the best for last. So, strap in. One of my fans wrote in a comment, right? He wrote, Cody Rhodes cried again. That's all I need to hear. I go on WWE.com and I look at Cody Rhodes. He's always having that Cody Rhodes sad face. I'm like, too boring. I'm not going to look into this. I go on Google and I write, Cody Rhodes crying. First thing that comes up, his interview with Michael Cole. Now, I know I've said this before, and I'm going to say something right now that some of you may not like. And I really don't mean to offend you. And don't get me wrong. If the hater wanted and meant to offend someone, I would fucking say it. I have no interest in keeping any fans that are not aligned with either my views or that don't actually like my stuff, right? If you want to unsubscribe, be my guest, right? But the truth is this. A lot of you, and I'm not talking just about the people that are watching these videos, but generally, a lot of people in America and the West and many other countries as well have been taught, right? They've been taught this great lie that weakness is strength. I'm here to tell you that weakness is weakness, right? Everything you've been told as a child about this category of opinions and thoughts has been a bold-faced lie to make you feel better about the times when you don't have the balls to do something. For example, the biggest lie ever told to children. Bullies bully you because they're insecure. No, bullies bully you because you're a pussy. At a young age, bullies pick on weak people that don't stand up to themselves. I'll quickly tell an anecdote that I've told before. There was a point, I think it was 6th grade, where people were trying to bully me. It was like 6, 7 dudes, right? And I was new to the school, and I was in 6th grade, and I was relatively new to this country. So I asked my father, I say, Dad, these kids are trying to fight me. What do I do? There's 6 of them. My dad says, fight them. And I say, Dad, they're gonna beat me up. There's 6 of them. And my dad says, yeah, of course they're gonna beat you up. Of course they're gonna beat you up. There's 6 of them. And then he's like, who do you think should be embarrassed about this? You, who lost a fight to 6 guys, or 6 guys that decided to beat you up, right? And I was like, interesting. That moment I knew. Everything clicked. Cucks. And I went to school the next day, and I was wearing the same sweater as one of these guys. Trevor. He's a good guy. I got nothing against him. I mean, if I saw him today, I'd be like, hey, how you doing? But if he ever spoke up, I'd slap him in the face. But back then, Trevor didn't like me, and I didn't like Trevor. Later on in high school, we became, I wouldn't say friends, but acquaintances, so no hard feelings. But he and I were wearing the same sweater. And back in the day, there was a concept called sweating someone. Meaning that if someone buys something and you buy the same thing, you were trying to be like them, and for some reason this is offensive, right? Of course I wasn't trying to do that. We just got the same sweater, right? It was a coincidence. So Trevor and I were wearing the same sweater, and he's like, why you sweat me? And I was like, what the hell are you talking about, right? I probably said, what the hell are you talking about? Because I was in 6th grade, you know what I'm saying? But then Trevor tried to intimidate me, and I was ready. I talked to my dad, I was ready. I was ready to get my ass kicked. At that point, I never got my ass kicked before, but, I was ready, right? And lo and behold, when Trevor pushed me, I pushed him back harder, and he stopped. He backed away, right? Since then, the hater had absolutely no problem with bullies, right? Because I always stood up for myself. Now, with that being said, and then later I became a bully, but that's not a good story. I'm not proud of that either. The point I'm trying to make here is this. Similar to this bully story, we have been told that it's okay for men to cry. Now, I'll tell you this. Of course it's okay for men to cry under extremely specific circumstances. God forbid that a loved one dies, right? It is appropriate to cry. These are things that will break anyone, right? However, if it's not something of that nature, if a loved one or a close friend is not dead or seriously injured or maimed or otherwise, permanently altered, right? Maybe if someone rapes your sister, you might cry. I don't have any siblings, but I would imagine that that's what I would do. And then I'd find the guy, hopefully, if I could, right? But beyond those situations, It is not okay for men to cry. Now, I'm not saying it's not okay for men to cry because you have to be a macho guy and da-da-da-da. And that's the counter argument that the people that want to tell you to cry use. They're like, it's okay to cry. It's masculine to cry. It's absolutely not masculine to cry. Here's how I know. If shit hits the fan, right? And this applies to men and women, to be honest, right? But with women, it's more tolerable because society just tolerates it more. So, in my opinion, women shouldn't cry either. Like, crying is a sign of weakness for anybody, including children. But if shit hits the fan, certain men and certain women, and in rare exceptions, certain children, are going to be the go-to people that you go for. They're going to be your tribe leader, the tribal chief, if you will. If you watch Lost, right? The show Lost, I think his name was Michael, the main character. He becomes the leader of the people on the island because he's strong, right? He also has skills, but he's strong. He's not emotional. He's not rash. But most importantly, he's strong. Then when he starts crying, the fans start turning on him. People don't like crybabies because a crybaby is not someone you can rely on. When shit hits the fan, the people that are going to cry are going to cry. And now the situation calls for people that are not going to cry, right? And don't be fooled by anything else. This is one of the best metrics of toughness. Your ability to control your emotion. I'll give this example. UFC fighter, overrated UFC fighter, Khamzat Chimaev, his shtick is, I'm a man from the mountains of Chechnya. And those dudes are real. I know Chechnyans. Chechnyans don't fuck around, right? There's certain cultures in Europe that just don't fuck around. Chechnyans, Bosnians, Albanians, Serbs, basically all the poor areas of Europe don't fuck around. Like, they're not like people here that don't fuck around. They really don't fuck around. Like, they'll shoot you in broad daylight, right? So I'm not saying Chechens aren't tough. But then I see Khamzat talking to a little girl who's like, will you train my brothers in MMA? And he starts crying. Immediately I know. No doubt about it. Khamzat can beat the shit out of me within 10 seconds. But if shit hits the fan and we're stuck on an island, I'm not relying on him. I'm not relying on Crybaby over there who can't control his emotions because a child said something sad to him. No. It's time to be a man. It's time to be a grown-up. I know what you're thinking. Oh, hater, Khamzat would destroy you. He's twice the man that you are. No, he isn't. Just because he can beat me up doesn't mean that he's twice the man that I am or twice the man that you are. Absolutely not, cucks. That means he's tougher than me and he can beat my ass and he's stronger. Big deal. You know? The point is, Cody Rhodes is trying to be champion. He's trying to be a strong man. And in order to gain fan sympathy, he is acting like a weak man. This incongruity could be justified at some point, right? For example, Chris Benoit, who cried, as far as I know, in wrestling 2, maybe 3 times. One was when Eddie Guerrero died, which falls into the first category that I said. When one of your friends dies, it's okay to cry. Kurt Angle cried too, right? 2, let's use Kurt Angle as an example because he's not a murderer. Kurt Angle cried when he won the WWE title, right? Part of that is the acting, but part of that is the moment. He reached a very high milestone, right? Even that we can tolerate. He shouldn't cry, but we can tolerate it, right? But Kurt Angle's not crying over nothing. You see what I'm saying? It would be appropriate for Cody Rhodes to shed a few tears when he wins the title. But when this pussy talks about winning the world title, he starts tearing up. Oh, I can't give it to my dad. Maybe I'll give it to my mom. Maybe you'll shove it up your ass. Dusty Rhodes has been dead for like 10 years, man. Fucking hell, bro. I get it, he's your father. You know, that might make you emotional. I'm not judging that part. But I'm judging the part where, number one, he uses his father's memory continuously for like 10 years. His whole career, but really leaning into it these 10 years. And then he makes it seem as if he wins this make-believe belt, his father can finally rest in peace, essentially. Right? He made his father proud. Nobody gives a fuck. But that's not even the point. The real point here, cuckolds, is this. You cannot tell me, you cannot portray to me that the guy who's going to be the stronger of the two, because it looks like Cody's going to win, is the one who cries the most, right? That's where people like me, fans like me, and I would venture to say 99% of the fans, right? The ones that don't watch anymore, of course, right? This is where they get turned off, right? The most successful character in the history of wrestling is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I never saw Stone Cold Steve Austin cry one time. Maybe there may have been a situation where he cried, like when Kurt Angle was going to threaten to throw him off the bridge, but that's when he was playing a cowardly heel. That's completely different, right? The Rock, as far as I know, never cried once. Hulk Hogan, never cried once. Triple H, never cried once. Undertaker, never cried once. Shawn Michaels cries a lot, doesn't win that many titles. Great wrestler, but doesn't win that many titles, right? You cannot portray someone as being tough if all you do is show them crying. As I said, crying once, crying even twice. You can tolerate it. You can attach it to the storyline. But crying every fucking week over the same thing, at the end of the day, there is no way around it. It makes you a fucking pussy. If Cody Rhodes has been crying for 2 years over the fact that he sucks so bad that he can't win the big one and give his title to his mom because he can't give it to his dad, if this is emotionally impacting for 2 weeks, I have no interest in the Cody Rhodes character. Now, I know that a lot of the current wrestling fans are crybabies. There are a bunch of people that cry their feelings out. They don't have the mental capacity to suppress their emotions when appropriate, right? Sometimes you got to let it out, but a lot of times it's very brave to suppress your emotion and not upload all that shit to other people who owe you nothing at the end of the day. Make the lives of others easier, not harder. If Cody Rhodes was your friend or my friend and he behaved this way, he would be making our lives harder. If Stone Cold was our friend, your friend or my friend, and he behaved the way that Stone Cold behaves, he would be making our lives easier. As a result, we would like him more, and we would be attracted to him more as a friend and as a hero. I don't mean to harp on about how shitty it is for men to cry. That's a different discussion. The point of this video is to establish that once again, Cody Rhodes cried, and once again, this is not something that is going to help his character. Now, the fans cry at everything now. They cried CM Punk coming back. I'm sure somebody cried over Mercedes Moné. Like, I loved Eddie Guerrero. When he died, he was probably my favorite wrestler. I'm not even exaggerating. He was my favorite or one of my favorites. Definitely like top 3 all time at that point, right? And I was very sad when he died in the sense that, wow, like a young man, only 39, died. But then I saw the people in the crowd crying, and I was like a teenager, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Yo, fucking relax. You know what I'm saying? Relax. Control your emotions. Be a man. Be a woman. Don't cry at every sad thing, because nobody can rely on you. Now, if you're a child, of course, children don't have capacity to control their emotions, and that's why nobody relies on children. People rely on tough men and tough women. And tough men and tough women don't cry at the slightest provocation. It would even be more acceptable to cry at the death of Eddie Guerrero, especially if you idolize him. It is unacceptable to cry over the world heavyweight title in a fake sport, or a real sport for that matter. Now, the homework assignment is as follows. Just think to yourself when you take a shit or something. Think, how many of the people you admire cry a lot? Think about that, cucks, and maybe say it in the comments. And also subscribe, cuckolds.